Thank you, sister. And thank you for hosting me in that beautiful series, those days of ritual and thought and good food, and good company and good conversation. And yes, I'm deeply grateful, as I am grateful to every one of you for coming to these very, very beautiful explorations. It's a very limited series. These things are designed to end. But um, something about beauty refuses the endings we enact, right? There are minor gestures in every ending. Was it, I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that said there's a crack in everything before it was taken by Leonard Cohen, and who inserted, that that's how the light gets in. Ralph Waldo Emerson's in 1841, in an essay said there is a crack in everything. And that crack is the trace of excess of something else that wants to be born. And that has been the focus of our explorations. And so I want to just begin by acknowledging the the artistic integrity that went into making this series. Um, Professor Wei, without you, this would not have been possible. So I want to thank you, sister, for inviting it, for breaking open the gates and allowing something beyond academic confines and traditions to happen. I thank you so very much. Lisa is on the call right now. Lisa, do you want to just say hi to everyone? Behind the scenes, Lisa is braiding and weaving and tending and threading and praying and thinking and dropping me at the airport and telling me stories about how she drops others at airports, right? Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm really, really, really grateful. And to us for creating the atmosphere. The Yoruba people say, um, well, they have this call and response thing, this dynamic that kind of leans into the idea that people aren't just within spaces, that people are spaces, that we are atmospheric weathering conditions, that you don't go into a place and just design it, right? That design always starts in the middle. There is no originary author here. So to be in a place like this, for anything to happen, for insight to happen, for movement to happen, it's because we're all here together, not because of the genius of one designer, right? That's a creationist framework that I don't quite jive with, right? It's not because of an author, stable and distant and distinct, right? It's because we are co-creating something together. There is us, and then there is something else. There is something more. And so, if you will, if you can do this, and if you're willing, please let's form our own coalition of the willing and unmute ourselves and say thank you to each other. You can name as many people as possible as you can see on your screen. So, can we do that?
Yes, thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you,
Thank
Diana.
you,
No
Hui.
longer
Thank you,
journey.
Tom. Thank you,
Thank you,
Anne,
Lisa,
Diana,
Angela,
Mara,
and
Gratitude to
Carol,
Anne.
Carol,
Ariel,
Appreciation.
you,
Jody,
Lisa,
Wish you all
Anna
good health.
Suya, and Vishali, and Lisa,
Dankeschön.
Lauren. Thank you, Nancy,
Dankeschön.
Leticia. Thank you, Barbara, Jinzu.
So,
Thank you, Leah.
Tito Stacy. Thanks to Felicity.
thank you.
Appreciation to Leonard.
Ida, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Sam,
And
Angela,
Benjamin.
me too,
Go on. We could go on to the end of the
Thank you,
class.
Natalia. Thank you, Ted.
Give it the chance, we will do this for 90 minutes. So why not? Let's keep doing it beyond the tiny, tiny frame of this class. But thank you for expressing gratitude, which doesn't seem, and this is my way of entering into our final conversation, which isn't final. It's an opening, it's a closing, it's doing something radically different from what we expected to do. Um, it's not a thing that is highly resonant today. You might think. Um, we are in a time where the political is blaring all its horns, right? The last time we spoke, I don't think we were in the very thickness of an Iran war, right? A war that has killed girls, children, women, fathers, you know, a population that will probably not be named. It's dropping bombs in Beirut, in Tehran. It is enlisting fascistic tendencies. It's like politics is taking up so much space that these moments can feel desperately suffocating. And so to speak about gratitude now seems counterintuitive. Grateful for what? There's nothing about these moments to be grateful for. Well, you might say, well, I don't have a bomb dropped on my head and I get to go to do my groceries and pay my bills and do stuff. So I can be grateful for that. And maybe that's also something to be grateful for. But it feels critically escapist if that's the tenor and the texture of our gratitude. Well, it's not happening to me, it's happening to them, right? In these moments, it's seeing them and us, those borders are blurring. We started this entire exploration with a difficult dive into the death, the murder of Renee Good in Minnesota. And if there was any moment, any story that exemplified the reducing and the evanescent, effervescent binaries or boundaries between us and them, it's the story of Renee Good. She's a citizen. She wasn't protesting for citizens. She was protesting for dignity. And she was staying. Did I get muted? Okay, where did I? Can everyone hear me now? It seems to be muting me again and again.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. It's
Oh,
fine.
can you hear me now? Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yes,
Thanks, Grandma.
others need to mute themselves so we can hear you.
Yeah, people, please mute
Okay,
yourself.
okay. Okay, yes, I was saying she was staying.
Sorry.
She was staying with something different, with something powerful, with something monumental, and it cost her her life. Um, that is a very, very powerful episode in our story of gratitude today. So when I invite us to think about gratitude, I'm obviously not playing into a form of gratitude that is already established, a gratitude that already has fired its arrow and arrived at its object. I am inviting us to stay with a deeper form of gratitude, a gratitude that does not yet know its object. And that's hard. It's difficult to be grateful for something that hasn't shown up yet, isn't it? It's difficult to worship a God that hasn't been convened. It's difficult to think about a parapolitics when politics can become overwhelming. But that's the crack in everything that Emerson was speaking about. That if you pay attention to only what is complete, you're missing too much. You're obscuring how the real locates itself. Nothing emerges without a crack, was Emerson's thesis. And I'm not sure exactly what he meant by crack. No, what I mean by crack is a site of excess, a site of things that are incomplete, a site of tensions that are usually glossed over. So maybe gratitude is doing fugitive work. Maybe gratitude is doing the work of blackness. And the work of blackness is not to stay put within worlds that have been convened. The work of blackness is to travel. The work of blackness is to reconvene life under circumstances that are never fully clear. The work of blackness is to disturb the thesis of closure. The work of blackness is to listen to elsewheres. The work of blackness is a weird fidelity, a weird faith that knows that the world can be something different. So this final session, my siblings, will not have slides, or it's going to have a rich theoretical conversation about what I call making sanctuary as a closing ritual. But I'd like us to start with gratitude and not just talk like the chattering class about what we think about the double bind at the Strait of Hormuz, right? Or render our opinions about whether Pete Hegseth should be fired from the Department of War, is it? Or, or whether the Viktor Orban's defeat in Hungary is the monumental political event that most people on the left in the United States and around the world are celebrating it as, right? We are often occupied by so much news, so much details, so much data, so much information. I'm not asking you to be in a breakout session with two other people, as we will be in a few minutes, to discuss the political events of today. I'm asking you to hold that in context and play an experiment with gratitude. Experiment with what shows up in spite of death. Experiment with what is lingering in the room, even when it seems everything has been emptied of life. And that is the invitation. Let us go for a couple of minutes, 2, 3 people. Lisa, I wonder if this is possible right now. And no, possibly 3. 3 is the numerological stamp of issue. So I often prefer 3s. So let's go in 3s and we sit together and we play with gratitude. It may not even seem as if you mean it at first, but meaning and intentionality are just smaller aspects of what the world is doing and what behavior is doing. So when we're back in 10 minutes or so, we will proceed with a conversation about this final closing and opening session. Can we do that, people? Though I'd have given more to keep listening to that beautiful music, right? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, welcome back. If you can, um, type out what you heard, not just from others, but from yourselves. Speak in that space of gratitude offering and put it in a chat. That would be good. But my dear Mama Brenda is on my screen right now, and I just thought just thought I would listen to you say something about gratitude and what it meant for you.
Oh, and
Sorry for putting you in the spotlight like that.
I'll have to be very mundane at first to just say, God, I'm so thankful I found you. Okay. And that seemed like an accident. Okay. But also, I pushed the breakout room stop button too soon. But this little group that we had, Fernanda and Ada, who was from Uganda and was having trouble getting through to us. And, what she said was so profound, being in a place where the lights had gone out. And it took a hard time to get through to us. And so Fernanda and I saw this little face in the darkness. And it just was feeling so grateful that she was in a place that all of the trash of modernity had not reached yet. And she could feel spirituality, in the darkness. How beautiful, like the luminosity of darkness that we ever get to appreciate. And Fernanda, Fernanda can speak for herself wherever you are, Fernanda, but I was very touched because she talked about seeing the newness in the old in a different way than you thought it would be, that you think I am going towards something new and Fernanda should speak, that it illuminates in a different way what you thought you knew was old. That
Right,
sense that
right,
we
right.
are not in a time continuum of that kind of time where
Yes.
yeah. And again, for me, as I put in the chat, I'm here, and my gratitude, as for many people who are the global minority who have experienced what we all have, Black and brown, and of course, white people, but hope. And that hope is, what is that? But we have hope. And
Yes.
that I feel grateful for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you, thank you.
so grateful. So grateful. That's my own gratitude and and I hope that we find the grace and the joy and the treasure of hearing our voices long into the future and just hosting space, whether it's in this space or in another. Thank you, Mama Brenda, and everyone who participated in that gratitude offering ritual. I'd like to invite us into a space of consideration. I will open up the space for conversation quite early, but I wanted to just premise and texturize the space in which I speak about this idea of making sanctuary, um, and why this feels like a ceremonial, honorific uh, paying of attention to all that we've been doing through these sessions, whether it's speaking about the second fall or vulnerance or harm or the ghost lights or infrapolitics. We've covered a lot of stuff, so to speak. And I felt this might be a good way to land. Um, I'm in Brazil right now. I'm in São Paulo. I will be heading out to Denmark in 3 days to go see their Minister of Education, who is intrigued and wants to have a conversation about what's happening in the world today. And then after that, I'll be going to Norway. And then after that, I will go back to the US, San Francisco. And then after that, I will go to Athens in Greece, um, House of Beautiful Business. And then after that, I'll go to Canada. And then after that, I'll go to India. Somebody was having a headache. Nwala was having a headache. There is a deepening sense of urgency in the world today. But I've often taken up this vocation as if I didn't have a body, as if my body is not material, um, and as if I have no limits. So these days I'm learning to rest, to breathe, to to find siblings, and to pay attention to the small things as I invite others to do. One of those moments of rest and miracle came via a message from my wife as I boarded yet another plane from a state in Brazil to where I am right now, Belo Horizonte to São Paulo. And she said, something just happened with Kea that you should know. Kea is my son. He's 8 years old and he's autistic. Um, and I was intrigued. I said, what happened? So background story is Kea is 8 and finds it very difficult to spell, right? Um, he finds it difficult to spell anything, his name, numbers, whatever. He could tell you what they are, what they mean, but he finds it very difficult to put words together. in the ways that are typically represented. And we've been working with him, and just not to try to correct that, no, but to listen to what wants to be born from that critical limitation. In fact, my wife just completed her PhD, her second one, in special education, exploring the relationship between her and my son, using qualitative methodologies, something that I'm really proud of, and she obviously is very proud of it. But then she sent me this message and said that I wrote some words down or read something to Kea, and I said, could you spell this? And Kea said, I don't want to spell it. I don't feel like. But EJ, my wife, pushed further, and she said, you see, the thing is, if you spell, then Batman could write you a letter and tell you where to go for the next assignment as a member of the Justice League. So my son loves anything superheroes. Anything super. So if you want to feed him pancakes and you offer him pancakes, right? He's likely to say, I don't want to eat it. But if you said to him, but Superman, before he goes on his missions, before he goes to Krypton, no, he doesn't go to Krypton, before he goes on some mission across the world, he always has pancakes with maple syrup. You know, he'll be like, where is it? Just give it to me. So that's his thing. He loves superheroes. He knows all of them. He's fascinated by them. He wears his capes every time. So she said the thing about spelling, and Batman writing secret notes to him and needing him to write back to the superhero. And Kea said, okay, I'll do it. But then he said this, I'll have to do it my way. I'll have to do it my way. So she wanted to excuse him, and she did. But then she looked at what was happening. What does it mean, my way? And Kea closed his eyes. And this is it. Kea closed his eyes like this and spelled for the first time, folks. For the first time, Kea spelled everything correctly. Everything that he had been told to spell, to write down, he spelled it correctly. She said he missed an A in one letter, but that's about it. He doesn't spell, he would find it difficult to spell boy, but he spelled everything because he closed his eyes. And she said, and I mean, I was shaking, I was trembling. I'm approaching the plane, about to show my ticket, and it's, oh, aisle this or whatever. But I'm trembling because my son closed his eyes to see properly. He closed his eyes to see properly. He did this thing, and I can almost picture him doing it, raising his head so dramatically and leaning from left to right and then writing, and it lands. I thought I'll share that miracle with you, not in a way just to be overly dramatic, but to suggest something that is critically tethered to this invitation of the ghostlight, of parapolitics, of the parapragmatic. You see, these vocations are tied to a neurotypicality that is premised on a very, very gilded and accommodated notion of the subject, the actor, the agent of change, the political agent, the voter, right? These are accommodations that are trafficked within the modern milieu that we are in, right? If you want to see a better world, you need to do this, you need to do that, so the political recommends certain pragmatic choreographies and 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 ley lines telling us this is how to dance in order to see change happen. And then something as parapragmatic, even maybe foolish, as closing your eyes in order to see properly, to feel properly, lands in the body of an autistic 8-year-old boy. And it turns everything that we think we understand about the world on its head, right? It turns the idea of the agent, it turns the idea of the pragmatic, it turns the idea of typicality, and then we wonder, what are we missing? What are we missing? What else is here that is not available because of the ways that our bodies move? I've just coined a new word that I'm writing up in my new book, and the word is paramorphological. If you notice, there's a lot of paras in the things that I've run out of. I love para. The word, the prefix is doing a lot of work. But morphology, paramorphology, morphology is the shape of the body, right? The proper boundaries of the body. To suggest that bodies are not critically composed by only what is morphologically available, but also by that which is performatively, anticipatorily emerging, is to make the body a movement instead of an item, is to immediately render the body an atmosphere instead of just an item or an object that is available for surveillance, right? And that is why we can no longer stay fixed in the idea that it's this body that will move through point A and point B to all the way to Z to meet a new world. That is a very tired, impoverished, inadequate concept, I reckon. And so it seems like the invitation now is to ask what else is there? What else is missing? What if the stable boundaries we're used to are melting? And what if instead of hiding away that melting, instead of, flattening the festering, instead of doing that, we stay with it, we work with it, we experiment with it. What does that do, Bio? Well, maybe by closing our eyes, we make sanctuary for the monster. I'll speak about what I mean by the monster. And in doing so, sensibility curdles a little. And then we are alive to what the world is doing in other ways. And then the anxiety and the huge pressure that has been mounting up in the apparatus of the political dissipates because we're not focused entirely on the political. We're focused on the place where it produces minor gestures, excesses, chaos, keen sense of a world beyond the visible. Let me say what I mean in this sense of this melting that provokes and invokes and generates what I think as the invitation to make sanctuary. I'm not sure it's in this class, but I've been speaking about Burinyung. BIR''YUN. It may have shown up in the 160-page slides that was sent to you. Oh, by the way, I want to take a pause and ask. I don't know, my sister Wei, if you're still here, if everyone has had access to the conversation between me and Professor Erin Manning, has that?
It has
Okay,
been
good.
shared, yeah.
Good, wonderful. There will still be a conversation with Professor Geshi and Laura Peña Zenata, and we'll post that after the fact. We'll find a way to do it. We've been busy and I've been traveling, but we'll make do somehow. But I digressed. Burinyong is an art form that comes from the indigenous peoples of Australia. And it is a refusal to close the loop around objects. If I told everyone here to draw a ball, you would probably begin with a point that bleeds into straight lines, that circles around itself and then comes back to the original point. And that would be your idea of a ball, right? A straight line that concludes, a point that meets itself the other way around. But the art form of Burinyong refuses straight lines because it does not conceive of the world as morphologically straight. You might say that it thinks of the world as morphologically queer, as so strange that its identity is porous. So they use shimmering cross-hatching lines. They may look like X's that are so close with each other. Intergenerational X's all crossing out each other. And the effect that is created is simultaneously that of a boundaried thing that is also porous and open. And so Buddha actually translates to shimmering brilliance. Because if you draw things instead of a straight line that's dead and neat and geometrically precise, that's what you get. But if you refuse to do that and you use cross-hatching lines, then they're this kind of shimmering, this kind of tentativity to the piece that refuses to demarcate the ball from the white space, the environment that produced the ball, right? That's Buddha. I've read some essays about this art form that immediately read together this shimmering brilliance with ancestrality, right? Buddha is exploring ancestrality, right? You cannot produce ancestrality with straight lines. You can only produce, at least from the sensibility of these artists, ancestrality with cross-hatching porous lines, right? Which is my way of saying that identity has no ancestors. Identity has no ancestors. The projects that are fixed exclusively on producing heavily subjectivized, in the language of Fred Moten, subjects, cut off from their environment with thin, crisp, clear lines. That is how modernity produces everything. That is how it thinks about politics. That is how it thinks about the future. That is how it thinks about harm. That is how it thinks about everything. And it wants us to perpetuate more lines, more subjects, right? What Buddha does is to render things porous. Identity has no ancestors. Identity may have lines of causality, but the ancestral is the availability of something else. The ancestral is not just your human forebears that go back into the past. The ancestral is the non-completion of the thing that is rudely called you, right? The ancestral is the materiality of absence. It's how your bodies, notice I use plural, it's how your bodies, it's how these times and our conversations are lurking with ghosts, with other forms of tendencies, with minor gestures, with landscapes, with environments, with ecologies, with things that have been hidden, with the occult. All of these things are lurking in the landscapes of today. We explored something around this in our second session where we talked about the Minotaur and the children of the Minotaur bursting through the landscapes of democracy. So identity has no ancestors. And that feeds into the invitations of now, which is, again, a question. What are we missing when we rule things so tightly, when we close the loop? In 1960 and the 60s and the 70s, there was a French visionary thinker and author who worked with people like Kea, who worked with kids that were on the autistic spectrum. There was no spectrum then. It was much more a diagnostic static thing. And even worse, because if you were diagnosed with autism, you were seen closer to the psychopathological designation of schizophrenia. And it was almost like a death sentence. Deligny, Fernand Deligny, he died on my birthday, September 18, 1996. I wasn't born in 1996. I was born September 18. He died on September 18, 1996. He decided to play the role of a Pied Piper. This is a story I love to tell over and over again. He attracted the kids and their communities to a small community in the south of France called Cevennes. And there they did something that looks like what EJ, my wife, did with Kea, which was just exit the space of your mastery and listen. watch, be present in some way, right? As she did when she noticed and refused to correct his closing of his eyes, right? Delaney did the same. The children that he worked with, along with his companion artists and educators, were instructed not to instruct, control, manage, or fix those children in these renegade camps of experimentation. They were told not to fix them. They were told not to translate them. Most of these children, if not all of them, did not use language in the ways that we do. They did not use words in the ways that we do. And so they were told not to fix that. Because Delaney asked the same question I ask now as I build this story of making sanctuary. He asked, what if language is getting in the way of too much? What if just in the way that I said, what if we're missing something by seeing too much, by having so much data, by having so much control, by being correct all the time? What if that is getting in the way of something else? I'll take a quantum leap to the side a little and just share that I watched a YouTube video about prediction markets. Does anyone know what prediction markets are? Okay, some of us do. There's one called Poly Market, but I think it's banned in the US, but there are many other functioning prediction markets. This is how it works. Enzo. Nana, are you speaking about prediction markets? No. No. Okay. All right. No, not prediction markets. I thought Enzo was another software. Well, about prediction markets, not about Brazilian art forms, which is what I think my sister was referring to in a comment. Prediction markets are spaces where you can predict what is going to happen in the world and be paid for a correct opinion, right? So you could say that the new movie by Melania Trump will not make more than $7 million and post your prediction. And some monetary value is assigned to that prediction. If it turns out that you're correct, you could win $600 based upon how the market, valued your prediction. So I guess it's called Generation Z, Gen Z, or I'm not sure what the designation is in these days, but it's not just Gen Zers or TikTokers. People are migrating to prediction markets and have been doing so for decades now. And they are posting predictions, some as shocking as how many children will be killed during the war in Iran. And there are videos of people celebrating their winnings as these things turn out to be true. Notice what's happening in that regard. It's that white modernity is congealing in such a way as to perform what it does best, to create distance, categoricity, categorical distance. What white modernity, not modernity of white people, but a modernity that is premised on the racialized sorting out of bodies, which is not reducible to white bodies, right? What white modernity is doing is creating optimization. It's creating the future. It's creating temporality by quarantining us and rendering us immune from the world that we purport to live in, and then assigning monetary value to this psychopathology of distance. So if you need to pay your groceries or pay for your school fees or something, you could head on to any of these prediction market websites and post a prediction about something terrible happening in the Middle East. And if it works out for you, you could earn lots of money from this. Yay! And you're immune from that. So even the emotional labor, the idea of mourning, or even what biologists try to convince us about mirror neurons, right? That we are hardwired to be compassionate, right? Even all of that is being mechanized in such a way as to render us immune from the world, render us immune from our own bodily productions of affect, render us immune from participation. And that's the drawing of the line. That is a form of care, right? We care for you. We want you to have money. I remember watching President Trump speaking about his ascendance into messianic status by by saying, "Oh no, it wasn't Jesus or anything. It was I thought it was a doctor. I thought I was playing doctor," and immediately segued to one of the most devastating political setups in history, where he spoke about a woman who was next to him, a grandmother of some kind or an older woman who was a DoorDash person, um, and try to engage her in conversation about no taxes on tips. And that is, of course, even the president of the United States acknowledged that that was a disaster, because people are asking, what kind of a country celebrates grandmothers as DoorDash agents? What kind of a country does that? And so back to this thesis, Deligny noticed that if he tried to rule things so tightly, right? The story about prediction markets is a way of exemplifying what happens when typicality exhausts itself and its resources. Deligny was acutely aware of that and felt maybe the thing to do is to notice, as I am learning to do when I theorize about paramorphology or the paraterranean, that the way to enter into different sedimentations of possibility is not to produce an exit point or to produce an alternative, which only sediments within the gravitational lines that have already been drawn out. Is like I said recently, outside of an institution is also an institution. I wrote this down and I shared this in a short essay, that outside an institution is also an institution. You don't walk out of an institution and think you've left the institution. Walking out is already programmatically legible to the institution. The outside of an institution is the institutional, repeating itself in a different way, right? There's no exit. There's no neat exit. If it's an exit, then it's already architecturally legible. Do you understand that? That if it's ruled out already, if it's already legible and available, then it's already part of the very system we think we're walking out of. And so the romanticized notion of walking out again meets the artwork of these siblings in Australia who say that things are not as tidy as neat, lean, and clear, crisp lines, that things are ancestral. So even your walking out might repeat the logic of the thing you're walking out from, which is the reason why I think fugitivity was not critically enacted by escaping slaves. It wasn't about the enslaved leaving the plantation. That is one way to read it, but it won't really honor the depths, at work here. Fugitivity was about the plantation refusing its own thesis of capture. It's about the plantation birthing minor gestures. It was about the plantation forgetting that it was meant to trap bodies. It wasn't about subjects. When we reduce our analysis to subjects doing things to a world outside of them, then again, we're playing with those thin lines. We want to play with how things are present quite comedically, quite catastrophically, quite tricksterily in places where they're not supposed to be, like a trickster aboard a slave ship. Right? That's not a clean line. That is not category. That is Bourdieu. And that's what Deligny noticed, that maybe we enter into spaces of transformation and even deeper than transformation, because I think transformation, the language of transformation is heavily accommodated these days. Maybe we enter into the elsewheres, I would say, by leaning into what we've categorized as disability. Maybe it's in those places where we falter, where we don't know how to walk, where the moral order does not know how to hold or capture any longer. Maybe it's in those places that our bodies learn to do something else and to become different. And so what did he do? He instructed his associates not to speak. They were not to use language, right? If the kids flapped their hands and wandered in the environment, they merely followed them from a distance. And in their following, they traced their movements. This tracing, what Deligny called wandering lines, was not about mapping movements. It was about mapping energies. It was about mapping choreographies, not subjects that move, but choreographies that become subjects, right? And in doing so, they produced thousands of wandering lines on sheets of paper, art forms that you can find on the internet today. They call them wandering lines. In the places where those lines produced densities, where they crisscrossed and they met each other, it reminded me of Bourdieu. What Deligny produced in the 1960s and the 1970s reminded me of Bourdieu that has been produced for hundreds of years. I reckon. I cannot verify that. I don't know how long it had been produced. But it seems to me like if it's known to those people in Australia, then maybe it's longer than it's pre-modern, so to speak. But the point here is that those cross-hatching lines produced what Deligny called chevetre. That's a Chevetre. And a chevetre is a landing place of choreographic tension. A chevetre is a holding of intensity, a hosting, a refusal of straight lines, a refusal of mastery. It's a place of density where something is happening and we lean into it. We notice the gasping of almost reality itself, begging not to be just the one real thing, but to be other speculative possibilities. If you have never heard me say this before, blackness is speculation. And I don't mean by speculation, conjecture or guesswork. I mean by speculation, blackness is the refusal of the ontology of the real. Is the ontology of closure, of the neat line. Blackness is Bourdieu. Blackness is not identity either. It cannot be that, because if blackness is the shimmering brilliance, the ancestrality of things, then it has to be much more than the identified thing. It is the condition of identifiability. So what they did was to gather in those spaces of density, the chevetre, Deligny. And so when a little boy, well, he was a teenager, not quite a little boy, not like my boy. When Jean-Marie, a teenager, autistic, non-speaking, would walk around in a circle, keep walking around in circles. When they noticed that something was happening there, that was a place of monstrous possibility, they also noticed, along with his walking around, which seems like it's non-productive, non-pragmatic, they noticed that that was the site where they found underground water. Ah, Anasuya, thank you for that. Burundi is thousands of years old, obviously. Thank you, sister. And if you have any links to it, please post, people. That boy walking around in a circle invited attention to bend differently. And what people noticed was underground water, that Jean-Marie was listening to underground water, what our neurotypical senses could not sense into. I am very hesitant to paint these matters in the light of some magical thing that we have to do. I never speak about disability or autism or autistic perception in the language of my dear sister, Professor Erin Manning, as some magical exit or magical resolution. This isn't about resolutions at all. The crack and the space of making sanctuary is an invitation to practice. Practice what? Practice being with the site where sensibility meets its own limits, where the moral order meets its own limits. That's what making sanctuary is. Modernity thinks about sanctuary as a site of easy protection. That's what it thinks about, or sanctuary as a place of care. Yes, but this care comes at a cost. It says, I will care for you, okay? I'll take care of you. But the price of my care is your categoricity. You must trade with me your porosity, and I will give you $500. You must trade with me compassion, and I will give you, funds to get by the next week. And you will enjoy it, and you will think you deserve it. You'll be justified in earning that. I will obscure the fact that you are still on a slave ship, though. But I'll give you the solar panel, so long as you don't talk about the shape of my offering to you. So that's what sanctuary is behaving as these days, what I call therapolis, where care becomes captivity. Sanctuary as closure, thin lines. But what it seems is happening these days is that the earth has never been closed. The world has never been clean, crisp, and closed, foreclosed. It has never been categorical. Wherever there is anything, in the words of Emerson, that God created, there is a crack. Where there is the demand for clarity, there is also a little boy in Chennai, India, closing his eyes so he can see differently. And where there is the invitation to be pragmatic, to walk straight, to get to a destination, some utopia, there is a boy walking around in circles in the 1960s in France. And maybe that is our invitation. Making sanctuary. What do I mean by making sanctuary? I do not mean sanctuary as closure. I mean sanctuary as cura poesis. It's another word that I had to fashion to speak about when care outwits its own algorithms, when care cannot be conceived as category, but must be seen as process, when care has to deal with a tectonic world, a world in which the ground is constantly moving, and the grip of an embrace can quickly become the grip of asphyxiation. Sanctuary is noticing that we are in such circumstances that even our diagnosis of what's happening, even our stories of who's the bad guy and who's the good, all our stories of the political are still emanations, are still phenomena of the political. And that this is the time to lose our way, to close our eyes, to hold the monstrous, excessive thing that doesn't fit neatly into the shape of experience. Making sanctuary is artistic perception. Some people might say, oh, we should perceive like autistic people do. No, that's not what Erin Manning means by autistic perception. She means perception does not happen in the way that we think it does, right? We don't just see the world, right? The accommodation makes us think that there's an eye that sees the world, or that visuality is the dominant sense. I enjoyed listening with my family, the telepathy tapes, driving from New York to our place in Great Barrington recently. And we listened to 3 or 4 episodes, and we're all quiet in the vehicle. Don't want to go into that rabbit hole, how the establishment tried to shut that down. But there's a lot to be said about the shape of perception and how it's a lot more unwieldy than typicality would lead us to believe it is. Making sanctuary is the refusal of the straight line, the line that moves from A to Z. It's the invitation to practice the parapolitical, or rather, the practice is the parapolitical. It is holding the tremble, the ill-advised question, the itch, the glance, the thing that doesn't fit neatly, the crack. And instead of rendering it useful, it is creating ceremony with that moment, with that crack. And in doing so, following it in choreographies of weird fidelity to this crack, we become stranger. We become stranger. Making sanctuary is hosting the monster. Some people shy away when I use the word monster. I don't mean the bad thing. That's how popular culture thinks about the monster. The monster is the reworking of reality. It's right there in the etymology of the word monstrum, the monstrum. It's to rework things. Monster doesn't mean evil god or gargoyle or ogre. Even those things are forms that rework the body. So the monster is the reworking of the body, the reworking of time, the reworking of morality, the reworking of space-time, the reworking of conscience. The monster is hardly ever accommodated in modernity. When it shows up, we flatten it, we include it, we make it legible. But there's something about when this shows up that renders it holy. Holy doesn't mean good. Holy means in excess of the order of things. And the space of holding, the gentle smallness and minoritarian gesture to hold the monster, to listen to it, instead of shutting it down into the familiar, is the work of fugitivity and making sanctuary. And finally, I would say that making sanctuary is not about making room. We've run out of room. I think we've come to the end of thought as we know it. It's not about making room, it's about making sanctuary. We cannot peel our way through this. I watched a speech by Pete Buttigieg, right? I think he gave a speech yesterday in Oklahoma, and I saw myself getting excited. I was like, wow, he speaks well. Someone even wrote, he's the white brother of Obama. The drill, right? Folded sleeves, eloquence, ad infinitum. He was speaking beautifully and speaking to the moment beautifully, and people were giving him standing ovations over and over and over again. And I found myself thinking, I wish he ran for president. And I'm not even American, but I felt like, I hope he runs for president. And then I caught myself doing that, right? Of course. Of course. We just want the next shiny thing. We want the next shiny thing. We are omniscient species. We want the next shiny thing, and then we forget the entire apparatus that produces shiny things. Say Pete Buttigieg becomes the next president. He still occupies the apparatus that produces the same patterns. It's one moment we want the tick, and then another moment we want the talk. And then this moment we want the tick and the talk and the tick and the talk, and the clock keeps on moving. So I caught myself without diminishing or pathologizing or guilting myself that I was in that moment. I just caught myself doing it. And maybe that catching of myself is a crack, is an invitation. Maybe I can now invite my mother, Brenda, and my dear sister, Michelle, and Anne, and I can invite us and say, how about we sit with this longing for the next shiny thing and just sit with it for a while? How about we grieve the the oldness of shiny things and their exhaustion? What if shiny things are like, leave us alone and let us be? We want to do something else. What if we stayed with that? You might say, but what does that do to the people who are being bombed out of their lives in Beirut? The idea that you are in charge of the next moment is also a production of white modernity. To be situated within a world is to be humbly located within a differentiating ecosystem of agency. The notion that agency is yours is white modernity. And I'm sorry, I know you've heard a lot of stuff in Hollywood about you can do it if you try, or you can make it if you only believe in yourself. I get that. I get that. But you don't have agency. Your agency is not reducible to you. If you close the loop of agency around the thing called you, you are ironically diminishing agency. You're shutting it down, impoverishing it. Ancestrality is the invitation of agency or to agency to be stranger than we make it out to be. So maybe it's not about, I know we want to solve I believe you me, I wake up and I feel, what if I'm wrong about all this? What if people should just take to the streets like the No Kings movement? What if we all shouted, screamed out loud? What if we chased away the king in the palace? Would we install a better king? And I keep on reminding myself that we've been through this before. This isn't new. This isn't new. We've chased away kings and turned around, and the throne turned out to be the oppressor, not who the content was, but the form. And if our protest is already pre-anticipated, well, no need for the prefix pre. If it's already anticipated, then we might be going around in deadening carousels of war, circles that lead nowhere. The invitation to make sanctuary is the ceremony of Katsuluni. It may not look like the wailing tradition where we sit in the darkness and wait for a song to emerge. People hear that often and they say, you're asking us to be passive. No, no. I'm asking you to notice that passivity and activity can retain the distressed modern subject, right? It's like, oh, the thing to do now is to friction max. I won't tell you what that is. You can check it out. The thing to do now to solve the problem is to get off this, is to get off that, is to be passive one moment, is to be active one moment. No, rest now. No, don't rest now. Hit the streets now. And the subject of modernity is maintained. And that's why, as a theorist of Black studies, of indigenous realities, of Yoruba cosmologies, my cosmopoetics leans into the vocation of following the wandering line that doesn't lead to anywhere productive, because reality is not about the productive. Reality is about the real becoming possible. So let me end here, somewhere here with this account of my birth. I've shared this before, but I thought it may be a good way to end. It's just a quick story of my mother giving birth to twins, and those twins preceding me and dying on the same day of their delivery. in 1981, and me coming to terms with this story in my 40th year, and having to do the work that I'm doing now to meet the twins. Someone very dear to me who is holding me in this inquiry is saying, Bayo, your next thing is to meet your brothers, to meet those twins. But some other elders are also saying that it's possible that the twins are sublimated into culture, and your work is to meet them there, is to meet the binaries that proliferate within modernity: up, down, God, man, man, woman, left, right, good, wrong, and to notice that that a third way, not a third option, making sanctuary is not a third option, right? A third way wants to be born now. Our work in this class has been to sit with this possibility, not to accept it, not to refuse your activism, not to dismiss where you are, not to universalize context, but to hold the speculative potency of a stranger kind of possibility, convening disability studies, Black studies, indigenous studies, feminist studies, mythology, stories, to tell a very, very difficult story to tell. That the ghostlights, away from the spectral lights, the luminosity of spotlights, are burning today. There's something else to do. But in order to be there, we may have to close our eyes to see clearly. Okay. That's about it. That's about it. Let's breathe for a while. And I know it's strange for you to hear bio say let's breathe for a while. But yeah, I'm learning to breathe. I'm learning to breathe. I'm learning to breathe. I need it. I need it. And we do need it. So if you will, let's just talk for a while, knowing that we have a few minutes left, and not despairing that this is an end. This will continue in some way. I'm sure Professor Wei and myself will alchemize something different. And if it's not here, it will be among a constellation of other offerings that are emerging in the world. Okay. So if you want to just share something, feel something, say something, please raise your digital hand. Nana?
I just want to express my gratitude. I want so very much to express my gratitude because, there's so much entanglement now. Everything is appearing finally so entangled.
Yes.
And when I'm here in this space with you, all of the entanglements that arrive and the connections. And when I was sitting in my small group, for so long we sat in silence. None of us said anything, and it was so beautiful. And then what finally came forth. It was so precious. And this is my experience when we gather in space with you, that this is a very special, and I use the word sacred, space. And I just want to appreciate you and give gratitude for you and your voice. And so thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you. I thank you. Thank you. Mist.
Hello. My camera's not working, so I am a tree, and I already was a tree, so.
You were.
Yeah, I don't have logical words today, so I just want to share an invitation of what I'm feeling into. I've been I've been vacillating between a deep like fear and survival instinct of like strategizing and finding a way to survive, and then shedding that and like feeling that and being out. I was dancing out in the storm the other day, and there's been a lot of storms coming with all of the fire to quench, to cleanse, to wash away, to open up the cracks, the lightning coming down and breaking away the chains. And I'm like, there's almost like a mad something rising in me that just wants to laugh and to be in the joy of the openings, the cracks, the possibilities, the portals that are opening in this moment, that we are arising, that we are becoming. Like we are not even the new worlds, we are the portals. And through us and through our coming together, those worlds are emerging, but they aren't worlds like you said. They're ways, right? They're movements, they're constellations, they're beings that we are becoming and arising into. And yeah, I just I'm so joyous in that, and I'm feeling the death and the decomposing, like in Norse myth Ymir, the giant that decomposes and becomes new worlds. And I feel like we've been trapped in the giant, in the machine, in the one world, and now we are finally, the fingers. The edges are beginning to decompose and dropping off and becoming these monsters, right? These wild new Jotun, these wild beings. And I feel myself breaking free of the moment and becoming something else. And in joining with others who are breaking out and with and in. Yeah, I can feel like in our decomposition. We are arising, we are becoming, we are emerging into something. Something is emerging from our synthesis. And I just thank you for being with us in that, for being with me in that, Bio. I can feel you are. Yeah, you are emerging into something. You are feeling in that space between.
Yes.
So thank you. Guruvmila Mahagat.
Thank you, Mist. Thank you. Thank you. Deep love, sibling. And my big sibling, Shodo.
Hi.
Hi again.
So I'm grateful I'm grateful to be here in person. I've listened to recordings, but it's not the same. So for decades, I have been looking at the options offered to me and saying, no, that's not right. And that's not it, and that's not it, and that's not it. And waiting to see. I mean, I did take a long walk once for 3 months. And I did plant myself on a piece of land once, but it's like I can mostly see what not to do. And there's somewhere when I listen to you, I hear something. Let me see. So you have the phrase making sanctuary not being what we usually think of, and you have the phrase the third way. And it's like it's time. Oh, I should be careful. I was about to say it's time for me to manifest. It's like, and some of that has to do with the world, and some of that has to do with my age. And while my body is still good, I'm running out of time. I mean, maybe not. I might have another 30 or 40 years left, but none of us might have 30 or 40 years left. So it's like I feel, it's like, oh, it's there. How do I listen? How do I listen? And I heard you say, let go of the place where you have mastery. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shara. Thank you. Thank you. And Anasuya?
Did you just call me?
Yes, 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 I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm just so grateful to again be in your company of you rewiring my brain, and I so appreciate the scramble. As one of the few Black-bodied beings who also live a very Black American life, fugitivity just takes on so many new meanings when it comes to your transmutation. And, I'm so grateful for the constant poking at looking at what does exiting duality really look like for me, a Black woman in America. What does that look like when I no longer have to survive misogyny, misogynoir, the intense racism that is the American way of being? Who am I inside of this close circle that I was born into? How I become the fugitive inside captivity, like in the yin and yang symbol. There's the Black inside the white, like there's white inside the Black. Right. And it's like, okay, how do I be fully and independently, completely fugitive inside this model I was born into called captivity? And being defined by someone else, and being limited by someone else, and having the rules of my life and my breathing and my existing be governed by whiteness, the delusion of white supremacy and white modernity. Every class I take with you is me chipping away at those closed lines, those closed circles. And so I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to keep exploring and keep throwing away ideas and keep throwing and adapting ones and changing and being with that wandering line, as opposed to saying this is it.
Yeah.
And then I'm trapped again. The minute I say this is it, I'm trapped again.
Yeah.
So there's no end to this. And I'm just so grateful to be able to witness your process of undoing so that I may see what is a path for me to continue undoing, knowing that it's never done. Just like being Black and free in America is a never done thing. So stop looking for that. It's never gonna happen. So inside of that, how do I be free inside of no space of freedom? So I'm just grateful for you and all of Mother Brenda, who spoke and just gave me great joy in my unbecoming. So thank you.
Sister, let your words be the closing rituals.
What'd you say?
Let your words become the amen, the ashe of our series. I thank you.
Ashe.
We will see you on the road again. And I want to ask that Mama Brenda offer a prayer. Again, sorry, Mama Brenda, for putting it's my body leans to you in that way. Just a prayer to close us.
I just got chills all over. Oh, I must offer joy. I offer joy, and I offer the cosmos of which we all are part of, and to which we all will return. I offer blessings blessings, blessings for this very sacred group. And I offer peace and, might I say, bliss inside of it all. I
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My heart is full. My heart is full.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you. Thank you.
You.
Thank you all. Our road is rough. We will continue and we will make sanctuary with the disturbance. We will see again. Take
Good.
care.
Woo! Man,
Ashe, ashe.
yes. Ashe. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ashe.
Blessings and
Thank
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 you,
you.
Wei. Thank you, Lisa.
Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Barb.
Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Barb. Thank you for the
Gragashe.
bio.
Well, thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
y'all.
you all.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you,
Thank you all.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bios family.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
Mahaga.
Blessings. Thank you,
Go with
Anasuya.
courage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Beautiful Mahaga.
Bye.
Hmm.
Disappearing.
Thank you so much, Mama Brenda.
Bye, Brenda.
Bye. Goodbye. Not goodbye. It's like a biento.
Yes, aviento.
One more lift.
Yes, we will meet again.
We will.
Oh,
Thank you, Sister Anasuya.
Thank you, we. I mean, what wonderful leadership. You are so powerful. I look forward to more collaboration, so because you two are a great team.
Yes, please stay in touch. Yes.
Get on your list. Keep the list, and I'll show up.
Thank you.
Das wird die letzte sein.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to close the meeting, but we'll stay in touch, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.